Howdy YouTube, Eznix here with a video for you. I've been doing a bit of Ezarcher building and tweaking, so I wanted to show you what I've done so far over the past couple days since the last ISOs I put up, which will soon be outdated yet again. It's Arch, gotta hang with it, right? Um, so we're going to take a look at, as I said, some of the little tweaks I've made to the build process, build script, the package selection, things like that, and also a bit of excitement you'll see when I start booting up the latest ISO with the just released today System D update to 250.2-2. We now have proper EFI booting in VirtualBox. So it was not a VirtualBox issue per se, although it just happened to appear in VirtualBox. And it wasn't an Arch ISO issue either. It was a System D boot problem that was eventually fixed. So let's go ahead and start up this VM. EFI is enabled. We have 2 cores, 4 gigs of mem, hard drive setup, and we're going to go through a scripted install, and we'll talk about that as well. So this video might go on for a little ways. So let's start up the VM here, and you can see right away we have the boot menu we should have had for the last 2 weeks with Arch ISO builds. Got it back. So my menu is now updated to read Ezarcher Linux instead of Arch Linux Install Media. First change. And I think that change might even be on the current ISOs. I'm not positive if I remember doing that in that time frame. I noticed the boot process, even though it is working under EFI mode in VirtualBox, it does seem to delay a little bit right here. But it will eventually start loading up, and here we go. We got a little bit of screen fuzz there, so I'm not sure why that was switching resolution or switching something in before Xorg started up. So let's log in with live. The system does seem to work just fine, even though there is a little pause in the boot there. So let's go ahead and increase the resolution. So we got a full screen here, or not a full screen, but you know how I like to do it. Yeah, that's how I like to do it. So 1600 by 900 resolution. You can still see my face in the lower left corner, lower right corner, however you want to look at it. We have the XFCE desktop up. That's the one I built. That's the one I usually build when I do test ISOs because it's the quickest to build, fewest number of packages. I also build a KDE for testing purposes as well, that being the largest and the most packages. So I hit the bottom and the top when I'm testing. And then I'm hoping for feedback in the middle to tell me, hey, your cinnamon doesn't work or your mate doesn't work or whatever the case may be. But I usually test more of them, but I make sure to test XFCE and KDE. Those are the 2 ISOs that consistently are the top downloaded of my 6. So first thing to go over is a couple changes in the package selection here. And most of them, almost all of them, hover around the multimedia set. Now, I'm not sure if it's easy to see, but I'll read it out. I've switched from Quadlibet to Audacious for a music player. I've switched from VLC to a combination of SM player and MPV media player. Now in the XFCE desktop you also get Parole with XFCE goodies. So it looks like there's a bit of overkill on the media playing software in XFCE. You can remove what you don't want. That's fine with me. But Parole comes in with XFCE goodies, and MPV is the back end for SM Player, although I don't think you need to install MPV, but MPV is a nice inclusion anyway. So that is basically all the most visible changes to the package selection. Is there anything else package-wise? I don't believe so. No, everything else pretty much is the same. So, but those multimedia apps are now across the board. They were before. They were mostly GTK based. Now they're mostly Qt based. SM Player and Audacious are both Qt based applications. But they look fine in a GTK desktop. You can see they work just fine. SM Player, I like how quickly it just pops right up. VLC had that little bit of lag popping up. So let's take a quick peek at the build process. And this is where most of the tweaks I did will come out. So for example, let's just copy the XFCE template, build template, put it over in our home folder and extract it here. And we'll go into it. So in the packages selection, I already went over the packages, mostly multimedia changes. But what I did do is I don't have them in this folder. Here, you know what? They're in this folder. What I did do is I revisited and reworked the install scripts and the guides, brought them a little more up to date. Well, I brought them up to date. The install scripts now, and we'll take a look at this, we'll run through the install script. Let's open it in Mousepad. And let's turn on WordWrap. I did bump the version number because I made some changes. The changes I made are really all in the packages selection here. I pared down the initial packstrap. It does include more than what the Arch Wiki would have you put in your first packstrap, your packstrap command, because I feel you're going to be installing most of these anyway, and they're always good to get in early on, in my opinion. Plus, this way, I can use my install script to install a base system with Grub and Reboot and customize it from that point. I can install a base system, Xorg and Grub, and Reboot and move on from that point. Or I can go through with the entire step-by-step package selection and desktop selection. So I like that flexibility that gives me. All of the package lists here in the general category, and there's a new category, the Calamares dependency category. So if you want to install with the install script and include the dependencies to build your own Calamares from source, you have the option of installing all those dependencies during the installation of the system. And these are now all alphabetized and standardized across both install scripts as well as all three install guides. So the install guides have the exact same software as the install scripts, and the install scripts and guides have the exact same software packages listed in the packages file of the build templates. So everything package-wise is consistent between guide, script, and template. First time that I've ever taken the time to actually do all that and make sure everything works. The multimedia section is, as I said, everything's the same now across all three. So if you open up and install a guide, I didn't want Genie here. one in mousepad. If you open up the install guide, all the software sections are identical to the scripts. And if we go back to the packages list, the packages files in all the build templates match the scripts and the guides. So if I wasn't clear saying that the first time, the second time, you got it 3 times. 3 strikes. If you didn't get it by now, I'm not going to repeat it. So, let's see. Anything else new in the install scripts? Yes. The other new thing in the install scripts following my build templates is SDDM is the only display manager no matter which desktop you choose to install during the install script. And as I said, other than that, the choice of Calamares dependencies group of packages to install. So you know what? Let's go ahead and let's run the install. However, before I do want to point this out for everyone's benefit. I noticed Colin over at PCTLC made a video again on his using my Ezarcher project to build upon to create his own personal ISOs, and I think that's great. That's fantastic. That's exactly why I do this. To clear up one point that he had, the install scripts and the EZMaint script are all located in USR local bin. Okay, besides on the live system, you have some of the Arch install scripts as well, the live sound, the installation guide, and the choose mirror. But my scripts are all in this folder as well. They're all executable, and the only thing you have to do, and let's make this a little bigger so you can see, the only thing you have to do is sudo ezarch.uefi. Since we're in an EFI enabled virtual machine, we're going to choose that script. Okay? I guess I could have drag and dropped that in, but I typed it already. So let's go ahead and start her off. We need our sudo password live. The version number got bumped to 6.2 from 6.1. It's not a big change. It's just a lot of little formatting changes. Didn't require a major version bump. And here it is. Here is the script. Now, before we get into this, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I developed this install script. A question was asked a few videos ago to do a video on how to script an Arch install. So let's do that. Let's go walk through that a little bit here. So if we go to my Ezarcher folder, what I did when I was learning to install Arch was I made notes while I was using the Arch Wiki, as well as other online guides. Don't tell the Arch forum people this. They'll flip out. So I used the Arch Wiki and watched some videos and read some online guides and pieced together a method to install Arch that was comfortable for me. And I wrote down step by step. And those step by steps, so once I cleaned them up a little bit, became my install guides. This was the first iteration of the Ezarch project. Okay, the install guides. And what I would do is I would have these install guides up on SourceForge, and I would download the Arch ISO directly from Arch, and I would use wget and pull down my guides and eventually my scripts very soon after my scripts. Because once you write all the steps out, scripting it's not that hard. I mean, it is in terms of figuring out how to do each step the proper way at a bash terminal knowing when you have to be in a chi root and when you have to not be in the chi root, what steps have to take place. So that was a complex part. But once you've written down all your steps, scripting it shouldn't be as much of a chore. You can certainly use my script as a sort of a example or a guide, but come up with the steps it takes you that you like to use to install Arch. Now, I normally don't check my keyboard layout because the default is US, but I give a little guidance if you have to. I normally don't check UEFI or legacy boot at the time because I know in which environment I booted in. So I'm aware of my surroundings. I'm aware of how the VM or the computer hardware is set up to boot. So I normally don't have to test that. I don't test the internet connection. I've never had a problem. I figured the first time I install Arch via a script or commands and I don't have a working internet, then I'll have to test it, but I haven't yet. So really, it begins with step 4. Okay, I set the time and date to the network time protocol true. I then update the package caches, update the keyring, run reflector, or install reflector if needed, and then run it, as you used to have to do in the Arch ISO. I can probably edit this, but I haven't. I just noticed that. Sort of outdated info right there. I then carve up my disk. So either CF disk, and CF disk to me is the easiest thing to use. So CF disk, and I outline how to carve up, how to mount the partitions, how to format them, because CF disk just does partitioning. It doesn't do formatting like parted or gparted would do. So once you've partitioned, formatted, and mounted them, you can run your initial packstrap command, and that's number 9 here. I then generate an FS tab. I then chi root into the system. I then set the configuration of the time zone and locale. I then more locale stuff. Okay, time zone and locale, steps 12 and 13. Configure networking, set a host name. Let's see, set a root password and user, create a user and set a user password. Sync the repositories again, run reflector again just in case, and then install Grub. After that, while we're still inside the groot, install all the software I want. And I have it in categories. I just copy and paste these into the terminal, and I would install. Enable and disable some systemd services that are needed. Enable the display manager. Exit the groot, unmount, reboot, and I'm done. So that is my install guide. And if you look at the Arch Wiki, all the steps pretty much follow the Arch Wiki. However, the details are different the way I like to install Arch. So once I had the guide all written and it worked and I tested it over and over again, I was then able to script it. So let's open up the script. Let's go to the top. Now, scripts work a little differently than just a normal text file. In a Bash script or in any programming languages, you can define variables. So I have variables for my time zone, my locale, my keyboard. And I set those right up front. Those never change for me. If you're using my script and you want to change these, you certainly can. Change the value of my time zone to whatever your time zone is. Change the language to yours, and change keyboard to whatever you want the keyboard to be. Little splash screen. This handle error. If there's an error in the script, it'll halt at that line. Hopefully tell you what the error is. As long as the script works, you never see that, so don't worry about that. Set the hardware clock, same way we did in the guide, same way the Arch Wiki does. Here I'm creating a username, creating a user password. Very simple method, not secure. You'll notice it'll echo out the text as I type, and it'll echo it when it confirms it. So don't run my script with, enemies behind you watching over your shoulder. Set the root password. Set the host name. Now here, the partitioning, my script takes a very lazy way to partition the disk. By lazy, I mean I give myself very few options. I know I want a swaps partition. I know I want a separate home. I know I want the home and the root formatted as ext4. After that, it's really picking the size of the swap, so I give myself a choice, 2, 4, 8 gig for swap space size. I give myself a size of a root partition, 20, 40, 60 gig root partition. The remainder of the space will be automatically made your home partition. So know the drive you're working with. It'll take over the whole drive. You don't get a choice of which partition to install to with my script. And then these sections actually do the partitioning. And I use sgdist to do all the partitioning. Format the partitions, and then mount the partitions. Same way the guide does it, same way you would do it manually. Install the initial packstrap base system, same way I did manually. Generate the FS tab, same way I did manually. Set the host name, right here. Set the locale, right here. Set the user password. Set the time zone. And that's it. We've done all our system configuration. Install Grub, right here. And then we get to the package selection. Xorg, general packages, Calamares dependencies, so on and so forth. So you can see the script is really just doing what my guide does, just in a bash script format. Towards the end are all my menus, where I write out all the menus used during the script. So instead of keeping talking about it, let's go and watch it in action. So we have the script up here and running. 1. Username, password, hostname. Create a username. We'll call it test is a user. Make user password. Let's do something nice and easy. Make root password, option number 3. Make a host name. My test. So we've done those 3 steps. R to return to the menu. Choose device and partition drive. My script gives you the option to choose either if you have a SATA drive or an NVMe drive. We're working with SATA, so option number 1. Enter device name. You have to pick an entire drive. You can't pick a partition. I do display the output of LSBLK so you can see what's on your system. R drive, SDA. Choose swap partition size. 2, 4, or 8. You can type out 2G, 2 gig, or just the number 2. Any will work. Choose the root partition size, and you can see underneath remaining space will be home. Okay? So option 3. Let's go with 20 gig root. Now I have a 68 gig drive, so the rest will be home. Now we're going to create those partitions, option 4. And you can see the output. If for any reason there's a problem or an error, you'll see it. Partitions created. We're going to format our partitions, option 5. This takes very little time. Done formatting. Option 6, mount them. And we're done with this menu, R to return. Install the base pack strap, option 3. And this will take a little bit of time. Download speed's pretty good for me. That's usually better than I get, or about what I get, so that's great. But I will pause right here and we'll come back when this is done. Okay, so we've done our install base system. So now we're going to do option 4, configure system settings. And all the configure system settings does is really just apply the language and keyboard and locale settings. Goes by pretty quick. Very good. So now we can go to option 5, install broad categories of software. Now, as I said, my script gives me the flexibility to, if I want, at this point, go directly to install Grub, and I will have a functioning with DHCP enabled internet connection TTY only installation. And I can take it from there if I want. But we're going to go through the whole install. So install broad categories of software. So we have 7 options. We're going to do all 7 of them. This will take a while. I'll probably pause in between. So Xorg goes by pretty quick usually. There aren't a ton of packages in Xorg. Well, there are a lot of packages, but they're pretty small. They only add up to about, 86 megabytes worth of downloaded packages. And with the speed at the moment, it's already done downloading. So we'll just wait Xorg out. Now the general package category, that's about 500 megs worth of downloading. We'll take a pause there. But you can see that's basically the way it goes. You just run through every step you want. Now, if you're going to do this, this would be another stopping point. You can return to the main menu, install Grub, and now you will have a base system with Xorg. See, flexibility in granularity here. So number 2 is general software. And as I said, it's not as much as I thought. It's only 254 megs of downloads. Cool. Still enough for me to take a pause. Okay, so we're all done with the general category. Let's go to option 3, multimedia. This has all your codecs, your media players, your music software, stuff like that. Also has things like ImageMagick, MJPEG tools, anything media related, really. This is also quite large, 166 packages. Going by pretty quick. We're almost done with the download here. Pulse Audio is the audio back end that I go with. So you get ALSA and Pulse Audio installed with my script. You don't get an option of Pipewire. I don't feel Pipewire is quite ready yet to depend on as the audio back end. Pulse just seems to work perfectly most of the time. Okay, so now we're going on to networking. So networking will include wireless drivers, will include Firefox, FileZilla, things like that. Network Manager, of course, so you have that. Open Connect, anything networking related in this category. You can see even though there are only 68 packages, some of them are pretty big, especially Firefox. That's why the download count is so high at 268 megabytes. But we're pretty much all through that, so just got to wait for the installations to happen now. Hopefully you don't mind me not pausing. I can talk and try to keep you entertained. Yeah, enough of that, right? I don't have the cats in the room, so I can't entertain you with the kitties. And it looks like it's doing the Broadcom installation, so we're going to do yet again another MK init CPIO, build the init RAM FS again. This happens a few times during the installation. There are a few packages in different categories that demand this to get rebuilt, and then it will rebuild one final time when we install Grub as the final step. So I know this, I didn't see a way around that the way that I'm using Packstrap to install all the packages, not just the initial packages. So we did networking. Now let's do 5 for fonts. Some of these fonts were already installed by other applications, other packages as dependencies. It goes by pretty quick. We're going to do printing support just because I want to do all the steps in the video. It's not a very large download, only 52 megs, and we're almost halfway through, so go by pretty quick. We are going to put in the Calamares dependencies just for completeness sake. Now, the printing and the Calamares dependencies are very optional. If you don't print and you don't want that, you don't have to install printing. If you have no plans on, say, building Calamares from source, you don't need the Calamares dependencies. But for those of you who want to tinker, want to use this install to build your own ISOs, install the Calamares dependencies. Now, it brings in mostly Qt and KDE stuff. So even if you're on another desktop, you're going to get these Qt and KDE packages. They won't affect the look and feel of a GTK desktop. They'll just be there in the background when you need them. If you think this is bloat, then you know what? Don't do it. Totally up to you. You can edit the script. Take out packages you don't want, put in ones you do. Okay, we're done with this menu. So let's R to return. And now we can choose our desktop. So option 6. Now what should we choose? LXQT, Plasma, XFCE, Mate, and Cinnamon. I haven't done QT and LXQT in a while. Should we try that one? Yeah, let's do LXQT. This is a pretty large set of packages, 240 megs almost to download. It should go by fairly quickly, but I will pause here. Okay, so our desktop is installed. Let's return to the main menu, R, and we do have to install a bootloader. Grub is the only option in the script. So option 7, and this does take a little bit of time. You may think that it stalled or the script froze. It hasn't. Installing Grub can take a minute or 2. I'm getting impatient now. Are you? I bet you are. We're going to let this run just so you have an accurate sense of how long this might take. Now, installing Grub on an EFI partition disk seems to take longer than installing Grub on an MBR partition disk. I don't know why. Not much of a time difference, a little bit. But as I said, I want you to get a good, accurate take on how long this step can take. And don't panic. There. Finished. No error reported. That's good. Generating Grub configuration file. It's going to list all the U-codes and the images to boot from. OS Prober, it's warning you that OS Prober is not enabled. If you're installing this, well, since you're picking a disk, not a partition, hopefully you're not dual booting. Please tell me you're not dual booting. If you are, this may be not the easiest way to go because Grub will overwrite your existing boot record and not give you your other operating systems until you go in, edit the grub.conf file, enable OS Prober to work properly, reinstall and rewrite the Grub configuration file, and then you'll have your other operating system. So please don't dual boot. It's just ugly. We're done. We are totally done. We're not. Let's do a Pseudo Reboot. Okay? See how this works. We should come up to our Grub boot screen. Now, my script does install the Linux LTS kernel and the LTS headers. So if you want the stock Linux kernel or any other kernel, that's on you to do it after the installation. You don't get a choice in the script. You get the LTS kernel. I do that because I like running the LTS kernel. If you don't like running the LTS kernel, guess what? You can edit the script and make those changes. Okay. See if I remember the password I picked during installation. I think I remembered it. Now with LXQT, you do get this option the first time you boot. Now the choice you make will be remembered. We're going to go with OpenBox. You can choose KWin if you want. All subsequent reboots should default now to OpenBox as the window manager. Now, if you really want to change that, you can look into the LXQT settings where that setting is kept in LXQT's configuration. We're almost starting up here. For a window manager, it does take a moment for LXQT to really come to life. Let's set the monitor settings here. 16 by 9. Apply it, save it, close it. You have your stock LXQT desktop. Now, one thing you might want to do is go immediately into Appearance. And you'll notice it's kind of ugly until you set it. So we're going to set it, apply. We're going to pick an icon theme, Papyrus, apply. And we're going to leave it with the Frost theme. Now let's go ahead and log out. And log back in. And it didn't remember the resolution. But you see it did remember the theme and the icon choice. Oh, I didn't hit save the last time. That's why I didn't remember it. Now it should work. So our menu looks a bit better with the icons. All the software is here. If you go into your package manager, which is PCman FM, the icons they're all set. That's great. And because it's not installed with Calamares off the ISO, you don't get the Ezarcher folder in your desktop. You also don't get the EasyMate script by default either. So hopefully you've enjoyed this look, as I ran through my Ezarch install script. Hopefully I've explained, at least in basic terms, how to go from an install guide to a scripted install. It's up to you to figure out the bash commands. You can look at mine, get an idea of how it works, make it your own. Since I provide all of the files up on SourceForge and OSDN.net, I don't see a point in going over in huge detail in the video because all the files are up there for you to learn from. First time Firefox is run, it usually has to create the Firefox cache folders in the user home directory. Subsequent restarts of Firefox will go much quicker. But there you go. So if you go over to sourceforge.net, look for Ezarcher. Oh, come on. This is really laggy here. Let's just try Ezarch. Oh, look at that. It found Ezarch. Cool. In the next day or two, I will have the updated templates, extra packages, and ISOs. But for now, this is what you get. So don't expect the brand new stuff when you see this video. Give it a day. They'll be up. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully you've stuck with me. Take care. Stay safe. You'll see me in another video. Bye-bye, folks.